and we've got the recording. And so I'd like to call a meeting to order, and first off acknowledge that we are meeting this evening on the shared territory of the Snawas and Qualicum First Nation, and we thank them for their stewardship of the lands which we live, work, and play, and certainly enjoy this part of our world. Trustees, adoption of the agenda first. That the Board of Education adopt the agenda as presented. Is there anything that needs to be added to the agenda this evening? Elaine, what would you like to say?
I've got an oral report about Oceanside Health and Wellness Network.
Under trustee items?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Oceanside Health and Wellness Network. And is there anything else, trustees? Seeing no further hands, I'll call for approval of the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And this evening's consent agenda has a number of ministry releases and representative reports. Trustee Young of the annual general meeting. So could I have a mover and a seconder, please, to approve the consent agenda as presented this evening? Moved by Elaine, seconded by Carol. All those in favor? Carried. We have no delegations, no business arising. Mount Ara Smith Teachers Association up first, and I think congratulations in order to Mr. Matt Wood for his re-election as the president of MATA last Tuesday, I think it was a meeting. And I understand Katie Cattell, vice president 1, and Carrie Foss, second vice president. And I don't know if you want to share with us the rest of your executive, Matt, but welcome and congratulations.
Thank you, Eve. Yeah, that's we held our AGM on May 16th. That's a Tuesday, and I was re-elected, and so was Katie Cattell, and is first, and like you said, Carrie Foss, second vice president. And Kaz Tomiyama is our treasurer, and our other positions, Pro D and so forth, Jen Picard, and other folks were re-elected. We do have one new person, Julie Cloutier, and she is going to be their in-district Pro D, so that'll be a bit of a steep learning curve, and that was co-chaired in the past, and so she's taking that on herself. So she'll need lots of support next year, but I look forward to working with her. She's got lots of new ideas and moving forward in that direction. So hoping things will work out well. Really, that's the big news. There's not a lot of stuff happening right now. I know it is post and fill season right now, and and there's lots of teachers that first round is done and completed, and we're currently in the round 2 of postings. And I just want to put a shout out to Miss Wilson and Miss Paul. I know they've tried really hard to create postings that have full-time positions, and in these inflationary high cost living times, it's important for teachers to be working at full employment. So I do appreciate their efforts to keep those positions as 1.0s. It also, I believe, helps with retention of employees, and we know right now it is an employee market. It's not an employer market; it's an employee market, and there is, and so people have choice, and so we want to make sure that they're able to feel comfortable with the jobs that they're getting. So, yeah, those are the two things I was just going to bring forward tonight, and like I end every time. A good learning environment is good for teachers, and the same learning environment is good for students. So thanks, everybody. And I see Barry has a question.
Well, through the chair, I just want to know how many years Kaz has been treasurer of MATA,
I can't count. It's more than my 10 fingers.
Yeah.
So he's been doing it quite a long time, and so we definitely looking at that seniority list. It's we're looking for some transition pieces here, I'm sure.
It's amazing.
Congratulations to all members of of your new executive and new folks coming in succession, yes, is hard, but we need to bring in new blood sometimes. Yeah. QP, I don't know as I see Sherry didn't get any regrets from her. So if she appears with the indulgence of the group, I'll put her back on the agenda. But next I'll move to Deepak.
All right,
Ms.
thank
Angel.
you. Oh, thank you. So just a few things to mention. On April 26th, we hosted keynote speaker Misha Oak. And it was at BSS Theater. We had approximately 50 guests attend, and the feedback that we received was that it was quite positive. Families are already asking if we can bring him back to our district. We would like to discuss this future with the possibility of pairing up with the school district to possibly bring him back. We also want to give a very big thank you to Rudy, Jillian, and Trish for their support. They attended. It was good to have somebody from the school district on site in case there were any parent concerns or questions, which to my knowledge, we didn't have anything come up. So that was lovely though. It's nice to have to have your support. We'd like to thank DPAC Secretary Jessica Threlfall for organizing the CPR-C and AED course that we were able to offer to our School District 69 parents and guardians. Unfortunately, we had to reschedule and it's now happening on June 4th and it's full. So we're really happy about that. I believe that's 18 spots. Thank you to Simon Rupa from EOES and Thomas Higgs from SCS for organizing the SD 69 cross country meet at SCS last week. It is so exciting to see all of the athletes together and hear schools chat and cheer on their runners. SCS PAC sends out a huge thanks to all the parents and guardians from their schools who volunteered and helped make the race a massive success. Also, we held our elections last week, and and the positions for president and vice president for the 2023-24 school year took place on May 17th. I am pleased to announce that Carrie Kidasaki is the president and Jessica Threlfall will be our vice president. It has been a great pleasure working with these ladies for the last 2 years on DPAC, and I know that we are in excellent hands with them. And I do look forward to working with them and supporting them in a different role in the fall. And last but not least, very exciting, at our May 17th DPAC meeting, members voted to support spending up to $10,000 from our own general funds, general account to purchase one $18,000 Huco Orthos accessibility bike. In 2022, we'd raised $9,000 from grants, $500 donation from Melanie Peak, and we raised nearly $200 from our profits from the swag. So with all of that together, we have approved, we are going to go ahead with purchasing one accessibility bike, and details to be worked out between the school district and our staff on how to make those arrangements happen. But I'm very pleased to say that we got one. I wanted 4, we got 1.
Oh, you're on your way. You're on your way.
On our way. Yeah, we're rolling.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Angel, also too, for your service to the district through DPAC. We certainly appreciate it. We commiserated a little before the meeting started, but it is wonderful to see you still hanging there with us and with OES as well. And so thank you for being part of our team.
Pleasure.
Because we value DPAC as much as anything at our table and our discussions. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Great. And no public question period. I can see action items. So
I got a question there.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. I just was wondering, like, on that bike, just a curiosity, being an ex-biker, who's going to do the maintenance on it? It must be very complicated.
My understanding was that it would become part of school district inventory. And I believe we have I have to double check with Jessica. I want to say that although we can't order the bike through a local biking shop or bike shop, it has to come out of Victoria.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if somebody local would be able to do the maintenance on it.
Yeah, very important for bikes.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I had mentioned, there are a lot of details to be worked out between the district and us purchasing it. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, information items. We'll start off with our superintendent's report, Dr. Jory and the strat plan update and our
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chair Flynn. Greetings, everyone. It's Squale. Here we are now in May and 2/3 of the way through what we call April, May, June. And the mad rush to the end of the school year is on. So much to do and not so much time to do it all. Business is back to usual, though. And we are reminded these days that the root word of busyness is busy, especially in our schools. Attendance is better than it was at this time last year for both staff and students. That's good news. Days of 40 to 50 FTE of staff replacements are more common than the 60 to 70 FTE that we often saw a year ago. And our replacement rosters are holding up quite well. This doesn't take us back to the pre-pandemic numbers, but potentially with a little attention, we can at least nudge back in that direction. And of course, perhaps reduce some of the budgetary pressures we've been seeing lately. Students are attending more frequently as well, and though our elementary numbers are normalizing somewhat, I and others would like to see our secondary students present at school a little more often than what we're seeing. Most districts and jurisdictions are saying about the same thing, and it is a bit of a curious and potentially troubling trend that we'd all like to know more about. Everybody is interested in attendance these days. We recently had our fourth and final meeting of the Code of Conduct Working Group. I was able to share the basic template concept and the new expectations for schools to adopt through their planning and consultation processes. We are opting for a soft launch of the new codes, so schools that are ready to adopt can go right ahead, and schools that need more time to develop a matrix and some more aspirational language can take the year to do so in a collaborative manner with their stakeholders. Whether adopting the new version now or later, principals will still be submitting their 23-24 codes and their stakeholder forms, feedback forms at year end as per typical practice for the board to review in the fall. Principals and vice principals were able to share key pieces of their school plans on May 9th to colleagues and attendant board members. Each PVP had just 5 minutes to speak to the development of a single goal for their school, the information that led to that goal, the strategy selected to impact it, then have 5 minutes to answer questions in a modified fishbowl model. This process gave a 2-hour whirlwind tour of the school district, each of the 2 breakout rooms, and allowed board and senior staff a quick look into the most focused work going on in schools. Principals have reported back appreciating the conversations with peers and board and the opportunity to see what their colleagues are doing so they can share practice from them. Each school will be submitting their new school plan for impact in time for the June board meeting. We're looking forward to supporting them further with this process in a session coming up on Monday, the 29th. We also have some promising news regarding technology. Spaces is being well used in our schools as a portfolio tool, and our secondary schools have been using My Blueprint for planning and course selection. All schools have access to Ed Insight now, and along with provincial assessments, local and classroom assessments are now accessible and visible in a colorful heat map format for easy uptake. I have heard at least one positive review through Matt, which I consider encouraging. I'm sure there'll be more on the way. And we're on the verge of a partial rollout of Teams, which will include the senior team principals and managers to start, with board, schools, and departments to follow soon after. This program will form an online repository for shared documents, conversations organized into specific categories or channels in the new vernacular, and the opportunity to text in a secure and separate work-only environment. Full adoption will mean a significant reduction in email reliance and a substantial increase in our organizational acumen and overall efficiency. Very exciting, and yes, we will teach you how to use it when the time comes. No worries there. The Ministry of Education has published a new communicating student learning brochure for parents and caregivers. Signals a new direction ministry publication, which is intended to reach a broader audience through improved presentation and more user-friendly vocabulary. We've shared it with our principals, who will be sharing it with their staff this week, in anticipation of our sharing it this coming Friday out to parents and caregivers. As we are a district that has embraced these practices in advance of much of the province, the document should land very comfortably across our schools and provide a well-designed and useful resource for everyone in our system that will dovetail effectively with our own publications. In fact, I was I was gushing about it so much at our last meeting that I had to actually say to the ministry person, no, I'm not messing with you. I really do think this is awesome. Speaking of planning, we are approaching launch for our district strategic plan after several months of surveys, student focus groups at all of our schools, focus planning sessions with our diverse group of 40 stakeholders, which also included a further check-in with students. We will be sharing the draft with anyone who's interested in a Zoom town hall on June 6th, starting at 6 p.m. As mentioned last month, and at any time I basically have airtime, please join us. You are invited. I will provide viewers with some contextual information, including the purpose of strategic planning, the frameworks that informed our work, the process we followed, and of course, most importantly, the goals and outcomes we developed using the observable impact model. Also been working with a graphic designer on a brochure, which I will start to share in draft form, along with a new district logo for the board to consider. Drum roll, please. All of this will be recorded and posted, of course, along with a form for feedback. That feedback will be collected and provided to the board prior to the June public meeting of the board to further inform the approval process. Should we move forward, next year we'll focus on rolling out and operationalizing the plan, which will include communication and assessment plans, as well as supporting our principals in moving this work forward in our schools. As a colleague once said, all that will be left to do is the work. Director Terpstra and Associate Superintendent Wilson will update you on professional learning and other happenings around the district. I want to close by thanking all staff for their hard work this May in providing amazing and vibrant learning environments in our schools, whether you change tires, empty recycling, mow lawns, or lead, design, facilitate, assess, or support learning in any way, shape, or form. We appreciate your efforts very much. Hi, Sepqua. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jory. Do we have any questions of the superintendent's report? Trustees? Seeing none, we can move to the educational programs update. Associate Superintendent Wilson and Director of Instruction, Mr. Terpstra, and you guys usually decide who goes first and who goes second.
I'm going to jump in here because I'm having some technical difficulties tonight and I'm not sure why. I need to
Can't see
reboot
you.
my Wi-Fi. Yes, I don't know what's going on. My computer's down, so I'm doing it on my phone. I just want to talk about the work that our kindergarten teachers are doing right now in preparation for their Welcome to K sessions at each of our schools. So that's when families are coming to their schools. Happens usually towards the end of May and the beginning of June. It takes lots of work to plan for the new little ones coming in and getting to see their school. And it's a follow-up from Pete the Cat. And then they go to the school. And then, of course, in September, they get the orientation in the classrooms. I also want to acknowledge some of the work that we're doing in 2 of our schools as part of the transition to kindergarten. And that's that pilot project at Nanoose Bay Elementary School, as well as Arrington Elementary School. I'm hearing nothing but positive feedback from parents, from staff, and from the staff who are actually facilitating and running the sessions. And just as a reminder, that's the session that takes place 2 hours a day, twice a week at both of those sites. So really exciting to hear the outcome of that. And parents can stay tuned for a survey that will be coming to help us understand what significance it made for their child's time as they get orientated to their new schools. The other thing that's going to happen prior to our next meeting is we do have our famous grad walk that was taking place on June the 14th. It's a time and an opportunity for our graduates to choose which school they want to go and visit. Sometimes they go back to their school that they were in elementary school. Other time they go to the school that their teacher, who might have a significant relationship with them and has been a positive influence, has moved schools. And so they go back to that school that their teacher is currently at. Want to thank all the elementary schools who do a little bit of a walk, and there's flowers and there's songs and there's tears and there's all kinds of things that happen. It's great for many, in many fronts. One of them is our graduates, of course, who wear their cap and gown and they're celebrated for the hard work that they've done and achieving graduation. The other one is our kindergartens and our elementary schools. And somebody quoted the other day and said, "What are they doing? What's that? I want to do that." So it triggers that response for our elementary kiddos to say, "Hey, I want to be a graduate someday, and I can't miss the teachers." Sometimes they don't recognize who the young adults are that walk before them, but they remember their names, and they might remember the sparkle that's in their eyes as being that little person that caused them a couple of hairs to go gray or something. But it's always great for our educators to see their students that are graduating. It takes 13 years from kindergarten to grade 12 to graduate. And sometimes we forget the support and the work that our teachers done in the primary and the early years. So it's a blessing on many fronts. And so we really celebrate the grad walk that we do in our district. And that's about it for me for tonight.
Thanks, Jill. Do you know any sort of times around when the grad walks are, or should we just contact our schools?
I wish I did. I mentioned to Karen today, our executive assistant, if she would give you some information as trustees to let you know approximate. The graduates had up until this Wednesday to sign up for the schools, and we'll have a better idea of when they're going to be at the particular sites by the end of the week.
Yeah, okay, or we can contact the school we'd like to
Yeah.
participate with. Thanks for that. So Director of Instruction, Mr. Terpstra.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Just a few more additions. Referring to Superintendent Jury's comments about the reporting order, we were happy that we took a team of 5 of our high school teachers to Cowichan School District Ed Camp. And for those who don't know, the new reporting order, big shift for the high schools, particularly grade 10 to 12, is student goal setting and core competency reflections. And so we're having some rich conversations about how that's going to happen in the high schools and where that's going to happen. Also, a shout out to the Assessment Evaluation Communicating Student Learning Committee, who's putting the fine tweaks and feedback to the district so we can have full documentation across the network and K-7 and 8 to 12 going forward for next year. We also are solidifying our grade-wide rights. Speaking of Ed Plan Insight, so we have some data around our FSA and provincial graduation assessments, and so we've landed on grade-wide rights at grade 3, 5, and 8, and then numeracy assessments at grade 6 and 9, and so that will give us rich data and really some of the great great questions we're getting from teachers through the committee are what are we going to use, and really this data is here to inform us not only to say, hey, the work we're doing is great and we're making improvements in these areas, or it will show us other areas that we need to focus on. And so that thanks again to all the people involved in those committees. Zero waste has concluded as far as the formal action plans for the year. People have submitted their reports, which are being presented to the RDN this week. We had awesome initiatives at Nanoose Bay, Arrington, Pass, Blenis, and KSS. So that was exciting stuff, and lots of great initiatives supported by money for teachers to collaborate and also buy supplies and expand their green initiatives at their school. And a shout out back to Angel and Deepak for hosting their SOGI event because it takes a bold Deepak to do that, and it's not in every district that those kind of initiatives are happening. And so it's one of the great things about our district that we can have an event like that. People come out to be informed, and it went off without a hitch. And congratulations to your team. And we also added all of our SOGI leads, counselors, administrators from each school also participated in SOGI lead training a couple weeks ago too. So We're seeing in a good place and getting lots of great learning around being an inclusive district, making a safe space for all of our learners and our staff. So that is all for me today.
Thanks very much, Mr. Terpstra and Trustee Young.
Yeah, just to follow up on the SOGI conversation and what you said, Rudy, about not all districts. I'm a bit privileged because I managed to work my way into a BCTF meetup group that is composed of people who consider themselves to be one of the alphabet people, as I call them, queer questioning kind of people. And I can attest to the fact that I'm actually appalled by some of the stories that I hear about how teachers in some districts are not being supported, particularly around the trans issues. So I'm very glad to be a part of this district and to be living and working in an area that although not devoid of prejudicial attitudes, seems to be a little bit more open to diversity. And I also just wanted to highlight the fact that on the trustee feed this morning from BCSTA, there was a comment about the Supreme Court case that against a trustee from a former trustee from Chilliwack, and who made some disparaging comments, and that the BCTF actually won that case. So that's the second time we've gone to the Supreme Court of Canada and had them vote, I guess, for inclusiveness. So I was glad to see that this morning too. Thanks.
Thanks, Trustee Young. Just forgot to patch back to the chat for everybody. Jessica replied about the bike repair piece question that Barry had asked, and if you want to look in the chat, you can see that it can be a local type of issue resolved at or more local basis at least. Next up, we have the Finance and Operations Committee of the Whole, and I'll call upon Trustee Young to present the motions that we're dealing with this evening.
Yeah, one of the things that I'd like to speak about, and I want to thank Phil and Brant and the team for doing a facilities walk around the Craig Street Commons, the old Parksville Elementary site. Certainly opened my eyes in a very different way that I've been considering. So it was really useful to have that opportunity, and I thank you very much. Annual facilities grant is attached. The spending plan is there. And the recommendation is that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum receive and support the annual facilities grant spending plan as presented.
I have a seconder, please. Trustee Austin, thank you very much. Are there any questions, trustees? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Carried. Wonderful. On to climate change accountability report.
Yeah, and that report is also attached. There was considerable discussion about this and about the carbon reduction strategy at our meetings. So always a good meeting to be at. And the recommendation is that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum receive the 2022 Climate Change Accountability Report as presented.
Thank you very much, Trustee Austin, seconded by Trustee Kurland. Are there any questions, trustees? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Thank you, and it's carried. And the carbon reduction strategy. Trustee Young, Trustee Young, sorry.
Yeah, and hopefully we got the wording of this correct, and if not, we'll fix it. That the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum request staff to draft a carbon reduction strategy for School District 69 schools to be provided to the board by September 2023.
Seconded by trustee Kurland. I guess buy, kind of a wiggle word, what's buy? But anyway, that we, at our meeting of September 2023, whatever works. I'm not gonna quibble over that kind of thing at this point. Are there any comments, trustees, or questions?
Yeah,
Okay, trustee Kurland.
well, see, originally I had thought about, a motion that one of our schools like KSS invest in heat pumps instead of, going away from natural gas or propane consumption. With the carbon report showed that we are, buildings are responsible for the most carbon that this school district is producing. And whether you're talking about methane or carbon dioxide, it was 1,400 tons. The rest was transportation, which, we've tried to do something about and we will eventually. But 1,400 tons is going into basically heating. And, if we can reduce that, and if we follow the UN guidelines, that we're eventually going to have to get down to 400 tons instead of 1,400 tons. It's going to require some work. And, wonderfully, Phil Monroe has hired I don't know if he'd be a consultant that we're sharing with other school districts that's going to help us through this transition because, as Hillel the Elder said, in the first century BC, or AD, he said, to paraphrase him, he said, if it's not us, then who's going to do it? And if it's not now, then when are we going to do it? You've heard that expression before, but it's true that, and especially after going to the symposium that the kids put on, it's really hits home that it's not for us, it's for them that we have to take these actions. It's not something that we read about in the paper. It's something that's affecting the poorest people in the world, and eventually it's going to come around and affect us too. And so it's time, it's time that we move in this direction. We have to reduce the carbon that this school district, we can't wait for the federal government to come along and help us, or it's our responsibility as the board, to move in this direction. And people have been working really hard through various things. We've done, photovoltaics and, reduced heat. We've had the PRISM report. All these things contribute to make us more energy efficient. And now the thing we have to do is to reduce our carbon or methane. It's time that we do this. And I really appreciate the support that Phil Monroe has given us and the other board members. I know everybody wants to do this. It's just that we go, well, how are we going to do this? And wait for the bigger hand of government to come along and help us. I'm sure there's probably grants and subsidies and stuff. And that's what the gentleman that Phil has brought on board, that's going to help us find this. So that was just my little spiel that I wanted, but I'm sure that trustee Austin might have some things to say about it too. And there's Phil Monroe.
I don't see trustee Austin's hand, but Phil, would you like to add a few comments about our new sustainable energy person, Josh Monroe?
Josh Monroe. No
Josh Monroe,
relation.
no relation.
No relation.
Yeah, I mean, at a minimum, just to tie into that, Barry, it's 100,000 GHG, I think it is, reduction in the first year minimum. So there's no doubt that his work is going to drive our emissions down just purely on some of the strategies that he's implemented at other school districts. But first blush, without him even looking at our sites, he has an emissions reduction target of 100,000 GHG. So yeah, good news.
Yeah, thank you, Phil.
Trustee Austin.
Yeah, I'll just add, I want to thank Barry. I think, thank you, Barry, for reminding us of all of that. And I think you articulated it really well. And also, Phil, perhaps you can, just for people that weren't at the meeting, because Barry touched on it, that this is a shared position with other districts. So it will not be a huge dent in our budget. I was just wondering if you could comment on that.
Yeah,
budget.
absolutely. Excuse me. Yeah, so this is primarily driven through BC Hydro. BC Hydro recognized that school districts of our size struggle to have an energy manager on roster like the larger school districts. So they piloted a project 2 years ago for smaller school districts where they would share an energy manager between 4 or 5 different districts. That pilot project ended after 2 years and it's now gone live. And we got offered the services of this energy manager to share with 4 other school districts at a cost of $750 per school. So all up, and he's actually going to be working in our non-school sites as well, and even going to offer free of service some advice on Lasqueti because it's no BC Hydro over there, obviously, but $9,500 annually for his services. So 1 year contract, we can size it up at the end of the year and see what we got for our money, but it's very affordable, and it's led through BC Hydro, and they have given him, as I mentioned, some target reductions and electrification goals that he has to meet within the first year by BC Hydro.
Thanks, Bill, for that. That's great. That's
Finance and Operations Committee meetings are, Finance and Operation Committee meetings are really, really interesting now.
that will be Trustee Young's advertising pitch for this evening. We have a motion on the table, moved and seconded. I see no further hands. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Trustee Young, for Fins and Ops. Over to Policy Committee of the Whole, Trustee Kellogg. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry. Okay, A, revisions to administrative procedures for information 101 AP projects, tendering, purchase and disposal.
You'll see that pages 36 to 40. And this is information only for those who've not been through this process with us. So Board Bylaw 1, Board of Education, Trustee Kellogg.
Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 approve first reading to adopt the revisions to Board Bylaw 1, Board of Education at its regular board meeting of May 23rd, 2023.
Can I have a seconder, please, trustees? Seconder. Okay, we're a little slow tonight. Trustee Kurland, are there any questions, trustees, on? There are some subheadings here that are being discussed, the boundaries and things like that, but they're at this point somewhat side table discussions. So we're proceeding with the review at this point with what you have in your package. Trustee Young.
Yeah, actually, that's what I was going to say was that this is probably not going to be the final time that we look at Bylaw 1 in our cycle. So we are looking at some changes to possibly to our electoral areas, and there was something else. Oh yes, some changes to the board evaluation cycle and things like that. So again, you know, it's worth tuning into these meetings because there are changes coming forward.
Trustee Young, second advertisement for the night. Go, go, go. Seeing no further hands up. Trustees, all those in favor, first reading. Thank you very much. Carried. And policy 100, sustainable policies, over to you, Trustee Kellogg.
Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum approve first reading to adopt the revisions to the Board Policy 100 Sustainable Practices at its regular board meeting of May 23, 2023.
Seconder, please, trustees. Thank you, Trustee Austin. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Living wage. Trustee,
Board Policy 301, Living Rate Wage, recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum approve first reading to adopt the revisions to the Board Policy 301, Living Wage at its regular board meeting of May 23rd, 2023.
and a seconder, please, trustees. Thank you, trustee Young. Are there any questions, trustees? Trustee Austin?
Yes, as discussed at the policy committee, I'm just giving the heads up that I will not be able to vote in favor of this first reading at this time, as I feel the change in just the one word from ensure to encourage has totally changed the intent of this policy. Though I appreciate the thought that has gone into it by Mr. Jory, I won't be able to vote for this at this time, and I hope we can certainly do further work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Austin. Any other comments, trustees? Call the question. All those in favor? Abstaining? Or contrary minded? Contrary minded? Somebody's got a microphone on. They need to mute. And so trustee Austin is contrary minded. On to board policy 106, financial reporting and operating surplus, trustee Kellogg.
Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 approve second reading to adopt a revision to the Board Policy 106 financial reporting and operations surplus at its regular board meeting of May 23rd, 2023.
I have a seconder, please, trustees. Thank you, trustee Kurland. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And finally, board policy 900, financial management and accountability.
Privacy management and accountability. Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum approve second reading to adopt the revisions to the Board Policy 900, privacy management and accountability, and its two new attendant administrative procedures at the regular board meeting of May 23rd, 2023.
And as was outlined during our meeting, this somewhat is driven by new ministry requirements and language. Seconder, please, trustees. Thank you, trustee Young. Any questions, trustees? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, trustee Kellogg, where we thought we might have a quiet year of just hanging around looking at the policy manual. I guess not. And more to come. Thank you very much. Education Committee of the Whole, trustee Austin, you have a written report submitted. Do you wish to add some more commentary this evening? 1 minute?
Sorry, bouncing around between documents and Zoom. Yes, it's pretty much all there. I just wanted to say, it's really wonderful when the students come and present to the Ed Committee. And they came, students from Bolinas this month, and it was a wonderful, wonderful reporting out. And their work that they're doing with Wi-Fi in the school, as well as the youth development instrument. I also wanted to add quickly, I had given a quick report out. I went to the public ed conference last weekend, the weekend before. That's CTF, sorry about that. And just in terms of the conversation we had earlier around SOGI, we did have a presentation from student voice from Chilliwack. And I believe, and I think they also believe, but they were, I think, very instrumental in helping form their Board of Education in Chilliwack. That's one that a lot of people had eyes on. The students were very concerned because they felt some of the candidates weren't representing them and what their perspectives were, and they were actively out in the community. It goes to show they don't vote, but they certainly made a difference, I think, to that election.
That's very interesting. That's really interesting. Great. Great. And sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Anything more you want to report?
Nope, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. We don't think we need to approve the report, so we'll move on to your trustee item. Trustee Austin, and the ELCO endorsement of a regional district and a NIMO motion to the Union of BC Municipalities. And boy, someone's got a good motion writing skill set in that group.
I think this went back and forth. So this was something that Elco took up with the help of Leanne Salter, who is the regional director for Area F, which happens to be my area. And they worked on this, and then Leanne took it to the RDN, and it was passed at the RDN level, and it will be moving on to the Union of British Columbia Municipalities. And hopefully it'll be approved there. And so they're just looking for support, and I would say the support might be in the form of a letter coming from the school district that says we would hope that other municipalities support this motion as well.
So you have that as part of your opening remarks that we endorse by a written letter. Can I have a seconder of this motion for us to entertain it as our business? Thank you, Trustee Kellogg. Are there any questions, trustees? I certainly think this, I'm not sure if it could have been explained any better, but I kind of get where they're going and things like that. And it's going to be a stretch, but I think valuable to take the stand for sure in support of the early childhood piece and child care. Any other questions, trustees, or comments that you share? Because I'm sure at the next ELCO meeting, Trustee Austin can report out on our support. And any other comments, trustees? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And Oceanside Health and Wellness Network report, Elaine.
Yeah, and I will send this on to
Karen.
Karen for the minutes, so you know she doesn't have to madly write. The Oceanside Health and Wellness Network has been struggling for just over a year now with funding issues, and we have just received a year-long contract through United Way. The money comes from Island Health, but it has to go through another body in order to be distributed. And don't ask me why, but anyway. And so United Way has been selected by Island Health, and we are in the final throes of rehiring our coordinator, who has been hanging in on a month-to-month basis for almost a whole year. Needless to say, that's been a bit of a block to our ongoing work, but we have a housing forum coming up, and I just want to read from the invitation. This is a forum that is being organized from Oceanside Health and Wellness, SOS, and the Homelessness Task Force. It's a facilitated discussion that's going to explore the challenges local residents face in trying to secure housing and the impact of these challenges on our local community. So it's the whole spectrum of housing. It's not just people who are unhoused. We are inviting representatives from municipal, provincial, and federal governments, First Nations, business community, tourism sector, school district, that's us, nonprofit housing and service providers. So we're hoping that we'll have a fairly small group. It's not open to the whole community, but the goal of this group will be to organize an action group that then would take this further to our community and try to work on actions that would support us in getting housing for everyone who needs it in our area. So more to come on this for sure, and I'll send that material on. And we will start to have more reports from Oceanside Health and Wellness Network as we start to do more actions with our now sustainable for at least a year funding.
Thanks very much, trustee Young. Public question period. Not that we have a lot of public, but Angel's here, Jessica's here. Okay, seeing no further hands in the air for questions, could I ask for a motion to adjourn? Thank you, trustee Kellogg. That's your thing. Thanks, everyone. Have an enjoyable evening, and we'll see everyone around the community as we slide into June. It's fast approaching.
Thanks.